and gentlemen, and thank you so much for being here on Super Bowl Sunday. I want to start off by apologizing that that was the case. That is just how things landed in order for the schedules to work out. So my name is Dylan Mashburn, and this lecture recital is presented in partial fulfillment of the Doctor of Musical Arts degree here at the University of Memphis. First, I want to start off by thanking my committee, my advisor, Dr. Martin McCain, and all the musicians performing with me this evening for their time, their support, and their collaboration throughout this project. The title of tonight's lecture recital is From the Streets to the Schools, New Orleans Brass Band Pedagogy and Practice. This recital is designed to function as both a performance and a pedagogical demonstration. Rather than presenting a traditional lecture, the structure of this program allows the repertoire itself to serve as evidence, illustrating how a community-based musical tradition can be adapted into educational settings while maintaining artistic integrity. So, why this project? Why is this a thing? This project actually grew out of a tension I've experienced throughout my life as a student and a professional musician. In formal music education, we often do an excellent job preparing students for institutional outcomes. They include concerts, recitals, rehearsals, and ensemble performances within the school system. However, many students leave these programs without a clear sense of how music fits into their lives beyond graduation, or how they might continue engaging with music once the structure of school is removed. Outside of those institutions, I've encountered musical communities, particularly New Orleans brass band style bands that operate very differently. These ensembles thrive without formal rehearsal schedules, extensive resources, or rigid ensemble structures. They rely on adaptability, participation, and strong social connection, and they continue to exist because the music serves a clear purpose within the lives of the people involved. This contrast led me to a broader question: what might music education look like if it intentionally prepared students not only to perform well in school ensembles, but to remain musically active, connected, and empowered after they leave them? Rather than positioning these two worlds in opposition, this project explores how elements of community-based brass band practice can be adapted into educational settings in ways that respond to real constraints faced by schools and educators today. The ideas that follow are not abstract principles, but practical responses to challenges I've encountered as a student, teacher, and working musician. Throughout this program, those ideas will be demonstrated through both discussion and performance. So a few key factors that are leading this idea, this educational input that I'm giving. Access is number one. When I think about access, I think about students in under-resourced areas being given the opportunity to experience different types of music using the materials that they already have. Many schools, especially smaller band programs like the one I came from, do not have the resources, staffing, or scheduling flexibility to offer an additional ensemble such as a jazz band. Band directors in these settings are often stretched to the maximum, managing multiple classes, rehearsals, performances, and administrative responsibilities. Even when there is student interest, there may not simply be time or infrastructure to support another formal ensemble. The brass band model addresses this problem directly. It does not require new instrumentation, specialized equipment, or a separate ensemble structure. Instead, it offers an adaptable format that can be integrated into existing band programs using the students and resources already in place. That adaptability is also reflected by the professional performing level. A brass band can wear many hats. It can be mobile or stationary, perform with or without amplification, and function in fully acoustic or electronically supported environments. The ensemble can include a vocalist for a featured front-facing performance, or shift towards a softer role suitable for a cocktail or background music setting. From an educational standpoint, this matters because students are not only gaining access to a different style of music, but to a flexible musical model, one that shows how a single ensemble can function in a wide range of real-world contexts. This expands students' understanding of what is possible with the skills they're already developing, without placing additional strain on programs that are already operating at capacity. Another pillar of brass roots is community. Community in this project refers to more than just the ensemble membership. In the New Orleans brass band tradition, Music is inseparable from the spaces and people it serves. Performances take place in streets, neighborhoods, parades, and public gatherings where the audience is not passive but actively engaged. The musicians are not separated from the community, they are part of it. As a professional musician working in this tradition, I observe how this model develops skills that are often overlooked in formal schooling. One of those is learning how to be a front person in live performances. Brass band settings require musicians to communicate with audiences in real time through movement, presence, and leadership, not just through sound. That kind of performance awareness is rarely taught explicitly in school ensembles. Community-based music making also naturally introduces students to skills beyond performance. Students learn how to promote events through social media, how to communicate with venues, and how to book performances outside of school-sponsored concerts. They begin to understand public relations, audience engagement, and professional communication as part of musicianship. In many cases, students also learn how to partner with local businesses, organize benefit concerts, and create performances that serve a purpose within their communities. These experiences open the door to creativity being placed directly in the hands of the students. Rather than waiting for opportunities to be provided, they learn how to imagine, organize, and execute musical projects themselves. With this approach as applied in school settings, students begin to see music not as a classroom activity, not only as a classroom activity, but as a social and creative practice, one that connects them to people, places, and real-world experience beyond the rehearsal room. The next pillar we'll talk about is sustainability. Sustainability refers to a program's ability to continue functioning beyond a single concert cycle or school year. Traditional ensembles often rely on large resource investments, rigid structures, and constant recruitment to remain viable. When enrollment drops or staffing changes occur, programs can struggle to maintain consistency. The brass band model supports sustainability by emphasizing flexibility and adaptability. Repertoire can be scaled to different ability levels, instrumentation can change from year to year, and learning does not depend entirely on fixed personnel. From an educational perspective, sustainability also means preparing students to continue making music after they leave school. By engaging with informal learning practices, improvisation, and community performance, students gain skills that allow them to remain musically active regardless of institutional support. Finally, we have student agency. In many traditional ensemble models, students function primarily as interpreters of repertoire selected and directed by an instructor. While this structure develops important skills, it can limit students' sense of ownership over the musical process. Brass band pedagogy encourages students to make musical decisions. They learn when and how to enter, how to shape musical ideas, and how to respond to the ensemble in real time. Improvisation in this context is not about virtuosity, but about participation and choice. As students take on greater responsibility within the ensemble, they begin to see themselves not only as performers, but as contributors, leaders, and collaborators. This sense of agency supports engagement, confidence, and long-term connection to music beyond formal education. Okay, so those are the pillars. Let's move on to the actual program roadmap for this evening. So before we begin with the performances, I'd like to briefly outline how it's going to be structured. It's designed to move intentionally through 5 different stages. Each stage represents a shift in how music is learned, used, and understood. We begin with a conservatory tradition, represented by a work that reflects the formal, notated, solo-centered model common in higher education. This establishes a familiar point of reference and highlights the type of training many of us in this room have experienced. From there, we move into second-line pedagogy, where the focus shifts away from notation and towards oral learning, groove, and collective participation. This section emphasizes how musical understanding develops through listening and engagement rather than through written instruction alone. Next, adaptability is demonstrated through a piece that has functioned across multiple musical contexts. This section shows how repertoire can travel between traditions while maintaining a core musical identity. That adaptability reads into vernacular crossover, where familiar popular music is reimagined into the brass band framework. This stage highlights how recognition and accessibility can serve as powerful tools for engagement and community connection. Finally, the program concludes with contemporary application through an original work designed specifically for educational and community-based settings. This piece brings the pedagogical concepts explored through the recital and demonstrates how they function in practice. Together, these stages form a continuous arc, moving from traditional institutional models towards student-centered, adaptable, and sustainable music practices. So let's get this show on. Can I begin by introducing Ms. Jeannie Bai to assist me on the piano? To give her a little time to set up, I will introduce the first piece. Enrique Tomasi's Concerto for Trombone, written in 1956, is firmly rooted in the conservatory tradition. Yet, it consistently gestures towards musical influences beyond it. While the work is fully notated and formally structured, Tomasi's musical language reflects an openness to popular, street-based, and international rhythmic idioms. Tonight, you'll hear the third movement. It is labeled Tambourin, or tambourine, referencing an older French dance form characterized by rhythmic vitality and forward momentum. In this movement, Tomasi transforms earlier thematic material through energetic pulse and persistent rhythmic motion. Much of the rhythmic drive in this movement is carried in the piano part, which establishes motoric patterns and accented figures that propel the music forward. These rhythmic gestures reflect influence often associated with South American musical traditions, creating a strong sense of momentum and physical energy beneath the solo line. Within this framework, the trombone functions as a rhythmically responsive voice rather than the primary rhythmic engine. The solo line interacts with the piano's pulse, shaping phrasing and articulation in response to the underlying groove. Although the concerto is fully composed, the interaction between soloist and accompaniment creates a sense of rhythmic flexibility that resembles vernacular, groove-based music making. In the context of this lecture recital, this movement serves as an effective starting point. It satisfies the technical and musical expectations of the classical recital tradition while foregrounding rhythm, motion, and bodily engagement, elements that become central in the community-based brass band practices explored later in the program. Once again, this is Tomasi's Concerto for Trombone, the third movement. Thank you all so much. All right. Okay. Moving towards the New Orleans style brass band. Before we begin to this tradition, I'd like to briefly situate where New Orleans brass band culture comes from. The New Orleans brass band tradition emerges from the convergence of European and African musical practices. From the European side, military and civic brass bands contributed instrumentation, harmonic language, formal ensemble roles, and the very presence of brass instruments in public life. These traditions arrived largely through France and Spain, both of which governed Louisiana at different points. Some scholars have also pointed towards the influence of band traditions from the Canary Islands, particularly through Spanish colonial roots. While this influence is difficult to trace to a single musical feature, it reflects the broader reality that New Orleans developed as an international port city shaped by multiple European cultures rather than a single national tradition. At the same time, African and African diasporic musical practices played a central role in shaping the rhythmic, participatory, and improvisatory elements of the tradition. These practices emphasize call and response, bodily movement, layered rhythm, and collective participation. In New Orleans, these influences were sustained through spaces such as Congo Square, where African-derived musical practices continued to be expressed publicly. What makes New Orleans unique is not simply the presence of these influences, but the way they blended. European instrumentation and harmonic structures combined with African rhythmic sensibilities and social function. Music becomes mobile, communal, and embedded in everyday life, parades, funerals, celebrations, and public gatherings. This convergence is essential to understanding second line pedagogy. From its origins, this tradition was not designed for a concert hall or the classroom. It was designed for participation, movement, and community engagement. Those same qualities make it especially adaptable to contemporary educational settings. Now, I would like to introduce the Grassroots Brass Band to join me at the stage at this time. And while they're setting up, this section of the program is called Second Line Pedagogy. It focuses on what I'd like to refer to as a new way of learning music that prioritizes listening, participation, and collective groove over written instruction. Come on, fellas. Okay. Welcome. We'll be performing Joe Avery's Blues, also known as Second Line. It comes from the New Orleans second line tradition, where music is primarily learned through oral, and oral means, rather than beginning with notation or technical explanation, musicians learn by listening, imitating, and responding in real time. Musical understanding develops through doing, not through explanation alone. One of the defining features of this tradition is call and response. Musical ideas are presented, echoed, and expanded within the ensemble, creating a shared musical conversation. This approach allows musicians of varying experience levels to participate meaningfully because this material is flexible and can be adapted in the moment. Another core principle is groove first. In second line music, rhythmic feel and collective pulse take priority over complexity. Once the groove is established, additional layers, riffs, fills, and improvised material can be added organically. This creates a learning environment where improvisation is introduced as a natural extension of participation rather than a high-pressure solo activity. From a pedagogical standpoint, this model is especially effective in educational settings. It lowers barriers to entry, encourages active listening, and builds confidence through repetition and ensemble awareness. Students learn how to lock in with one another, how to respond musically, and how to contribute without needing advanced technical skills or theoretical knowledge up front. In this way, second line pedagogy emphasizes music as a shared participatory practice. The focus is not on individual perfection, but on collective feel, responsiveness, and engagement, qualities that are central to both community-based music making and effective music education. We'll now play Joe Avery's Blues. so much. How about I introduce the band real quick? How does that sound? Is that cool? All right, thank you. Alan Blair on the bari sax. Angel Rubio on the tenor sax. Fausto Maya on the trumpet. We got Bryson Harding on the tuba. And Keenan Perry on the drums. Once again, I thank all these great musicians for being here with me. Let's continue on our adaptability display. So this part of the program focuses on adaptability in a very practical sense, specifically how music written for larger ensembles can be reduced and reimagined to fit the resources that musicians actually have. St. Louis Blues, composed by William Christopher Handy, is often encountered in big band or orchestral arrangements that require extensive instrumentation. In many school settings, especially smaller or under-resourced programs, those resources simply are not available. Rather than excluding students from that repertoire, adaptation becomes the point of access. By reducing this music to match the instrumentation available in a brass band setting, students are still able to engage with historically significant repertoire without needing a full big band structure. This allows educators to expand stylistic exposure while working within real logistical constraints. This adaptability also extends beyond the classroom because of the maneuverability of the brass band ensemble. Its flexible instrumentation, mobility, and ability to perform in a wide range of settings. Charts that are often written solely for educational purposes can take on professional life as well. Repertoire that might otherwise exist only in a school context can be used for community events, festivals, outdoor performances, or paid engagements, depending on the setting. That dual function is important. It shows students that educational repertoire does not have to be limited to academic spaces, and that thoughtful arranging can allow the same music to function as both a learning tool and as a viable professional material. This piece also carries deep personal meaning for me. William Christopher Handy was born in Florence, Alabama, where I completed both my undergraduate and master's degrees at the University of North Alabama. Handy's legacy was celebrated frequently during my time there, particularly with the band program, and his music played a significant role in shaping my understanding of American musical traditions. Handy later moved to Memphis, where he became known as the father of the blues. St. Louis Blues was his most successful and influential composition, helping to bring blues-based music into the national and international spotlight. That journey from Florence to Memphis mirrors my own educational and professional path in meaningful ways, and it has had a lasting influence on how I think about tradition, place, and musical identity. In this recital, St. Louis Blues March demonstrates how adaptation can serve multiple purposes at once, increasing access for students, honoring historical lineage, and expanding the functional life of repertoire beyond the classroom. This is the St. Louis Blues March. Vernacular crossover. This section of the program focuses on vernacular crossover, specifically how familiar popular music can be reimagined within the brass band framework. Stand By Me is a song that many audiences recognize almost immediately. That recognition is important. When listeners already know the melody, they engage differently. They listen more actively, respond more physically, and connect to the performance on a more personal level. In a brass band context, this kind of repertoire takes on a new function. Rather than serving primarily as a learning experience, a listening experience, the song becomes a vehicle for groove, interaction, and collective participation. Familiar material also allows the ensemble to focus less on explaining the music and more on shaping feel, balance, and ensemble communication. From an educational perspective, this crossover is especially powerful. Students enter the music with confidence because the material already feels accessible. That familiarity creates space to work on style, articulation, rhythmic feel, and performance presence without the intimidation that comes with unfamiliar repertoire. This approach also reinforces the idea that students' musical experiences outside of school have value. Popular music becomes a legitimate entry point into ensemble learning rather than something separate from formal music education. In this recital, Stand By Me demonstrates how vernacular crossover supports engagement on both sides of the performance, connecting musicians to the music and audiences to the ensemble, while remaining flexible enough to function in a wide range of educational and community settings. This is Stand By Me. contemporary application. The final piece of the program represents contemporary application not in the sense of a teaching exercise, but as a model for how students can create and perform original music on their own terms. This next piece is built on a relatively simple formal structure, but the complexity of the piece comes from its reliance on groove. Rather than developing material through harmonic complexity or extending thematic transformation, the piece moves forward through shifts in feel. Each section establishes a distinct groove, and those grooves change. They create momentum and contrast throughout the form. Improvisation is included, but it is not the primary focus of the piece. Instead, improvisation functions within the groove framework, allowing performers to respond to feel, texture, and ensemble interaction, rather than treating improvisation as a standalone feature. The bridge serves as the structural and expressive peak of the piece. The shift into 7/8 disrupts the established pulse and demands heightened ensemble awareness. When the A section returns, it does so in different feels, reframing familiar material and reinforcing the idea that groove, not only melody, can define form and direction. More broadly, this piece represents something that is often overlooked in traditional music education, the opportunity for students to compose original material that they can claim as their own. Rather than interpreting repertoire selected for them, students are encouraged to create music that reflects their identities, appeals to the audience that they care about, and exist within musical spaces of their choosing. This kind of authorship changes the relationship students have with music. They are no longer only performers within an institutionally defined system, but creators shaping their own artistic voice. In that sense, this piece is less about a specific style and more about modeling a process, one in which creativity, groove, and ownership are placed directly in the hands of the students. These performances this evening demonstrate how performance and pedagogy can function as a unified practice. Rather than separating technical training, stylistic understanding, and real-world application into different spaces, this recital shows how those elements can coexist within a single ensemble model. Each piece illustrates a different way music can be learned, adapted, and used while remaining musically rigorous. The brass band, as presented here, functions as an adaptable ensemble model. It supports a wide range of repertoire, learning approaches, and performance contexts, making it especially viable for schools and communities with varying resources and needs. Most importantly, the recital demonstrates how music education can prepare students not only to perform well within institutional settings, but to remain musically active, creative, and connected beyond them. In that sense, the performances function not only as artistic statements, but as evidence of a sustainable musical practice. In closing, I want to briefly speak about where this work goes next. While tonight's performance represents the culmination of the research within an academic setting, the goal of this project has always extended beyond the recital hall. My intention moving forward is to take this lecture recital model on the road, in a sense, into schools, community programs, and educational spaces, both locally and beyond. By presenting this material directly to students and educators, I hope to continue testing how practical and adaptable this research truly is in real-world contexts. The performances, pedagogy, and discussion you've heard tonight are designed to be flexible, responsive, and accessible, and I'm interested in learning how they function across a range of educational environments. This project lives under the larger initiative of Brass Roots, which is focused on helping students connect their musical skills to community engagement, creativity, and sustainable musical practice. If you're interested in learning more, resources and information can be found at brassroots.com. Any support in helping this information reach students, whether through conversation, collaboration, or connection, is genuinely appreciated. At its core, this work is about expanding access to meaningful music making and give students tools that they can carry with them beyond the classroom. Thank you all for your time, your attention, and your support this evening.